Good morning, everybody. So good to have you here on this beautiful morning. I'm Sally Whipple, and it is my honor and pleasure to welcome you all here today for the 29th Connecticut Colored Regiment Memorial Walk. I'm welcoming you on behalf of the Connecticut Democracy Center in residence at Connecticut's Old State House and the Alex Breanne Corporation. Today, we're here to walk in the footsteps of the 29th Regiment. I'm sure the men we are honoring today walked in much worse weather and under much worse conditions, and I'm glad you're all here to honor them in this way. When you're not walking, I invite you to come inside again, enjoy the refreshments that we'll be serving, view a small exhibit about the 29th Regiment, and enjoy the presentation of a poem and a portrait at the end of the morning. I'm also going to invite you to really explore Connecticut's Old State House. This building and the land it stands on represent many stories that hold clues and keys to who we are as Connecticutans and who we have been. This courtroom held the opening trials of the Amistad and the closing trial of Prudence Crandall. So it's and many other trials that are so important to the history of Connecticut that set precedents and argued really important questions about our state and how people were to live in our state. The Senate chamber upstairs is the place where Connecticut leaders wrote our state's first constitution in 1818. It set up rules and guidelines for our governance, and we can take pride in some of the things that that constitution did, and we cannot take pride in other things that it did. Free black men in Connecticut could always vote in elections in Connecticut, but the 1818 Constitution took that right away, setting off a decades-long fight to regain that vote. Time and again, the legislature refused to change the rules of suffrage in Connecticut. In July 1865, just months before the men of the 29th Regiment returned from war, State Representative P.T. Barnum stood in our House chamber and delivered a speech arguing for reinstatement of black suffrage in Connecticut. In an October referendum, the month before the 29th marched these streets, as you know, the white Connecticut voters once again denied black men the rights they themselves enjoyed. In 1870, the United States Constitution's 15th Amendment finally brought black suffrage to Connecticut, returned it to Connecticut. So please explore the building and the spaces and take time to think about all of those who came before us, who wrote petitions to the legislature trying to regain that vote, people who organized all around us in these neighborhoods, people who worked so hard to make things happen and had successes along the way, and when things failed, they stood up again and tried again. It's really amazing for me to work in this building and feel those people every day and the impact of what they did for all of us. So I invite you to explore the building, to drink in the spirit of this day, and also join me in thanking the Alex Breanne Corporation, particularly John and Erica Mills, for their vision, their good work, and their dedication to ensuring that we all know our full, complete, and fascinating past. We really appreciate them so much. And now I would like to introduce a very special guest, Kelly Merrow, who is the president of the Descendants of the 29th Regiment, a group representing the men we honor today. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, John, for organizing this event to commemorate the 160th anniversary of the Connecticut 29th Colored Regiment's homecoming. I have 4 ancestors who were enlisted in the regiment, which I lovingly refer to as the CT-29. And I'm always pleased to memorialize their dedication to eliminating the sorrowful system of oppression in America. I honor their history, and I am happy to commemorate their homecoming. Homecoming. That is an appropriate word for today because homecoming is the time when we organize a special event, we welcome members of a particular group, and we celebrate their existence. Today, we have the gift of memorializing a small portion of our state's pride. We have been given a safe space to defy the federal outcry, to delete Black history and DEI. Instead, our great state is exposing the legacy of a regiment that fought bravely for freedoms they did not see. I looked up the number 160 and learned that it has significant meaning. The number 160 is associated with independence and integrity, 2 adjectives also associated with the CT-29. And the number 160 encourages individuals to take charge of their lives and manifest prosperity, much like the CT-29 did. During this homecoming, we should also celebrate the heroism of the CT-29 during the Civil War. The Civil War has been a topic of discourse and disagreement for over a century, and I'd be willing to bet that if we reflect on conversations we've heard and arguments we witnessed, that few of us have learned about the war's colored regiments. The story of all the colored regiments during the Civil War is incredible, but their freedom story is sometimes skipped in our country's chronicle. As many of you know, colored regiments were not drafted quickly. At the time, many of the country's lead politicians, including Lincoln, were against arming Black men and adorning them in military clothing. This was a great irony because many Black people were part of the Army when America secured its win in 1776, gaining independence from England. During the Civil War, it took the hope of victory for the Union Army to almost flee in 1863 before Black soldiers were allowed to enlist in the Union's army. Because as the Confederate Army advanced and the Union Army almost lost its stance, Lincoln fought against his own resistance, and he agreed to Black enlistment. However, while some states moved quickly to meet the federal demand and form colored regiments, Connecticut was slow. It wasn't until 1864 when Connecticut opened enlistment and formed the CT-29. And so over the course of a year, the CT-29 fought in many battles across several southern states. They had the fortitude to follow marching orders, sometimes not knowing the place to where they were marching to, but they marched in the spirit of freedom. Freedom for them, freedom for their family and friends, some of whom they knew they would never see again. Freedom for strangers they would never meet, and freedom for their descendants, people like me. The CT-29, most notably, were among the first Union regiments to arrive in Richmond in April 1865, and they helped claim the capital of the Confederacy, which secured the Union sovereignty. After Lee surrendered to Grant, the Civil War ended, and several months later, the Union Army's colored regiments were disbanded. The Civil War's colored regiments existed to help solve a great problem in our country, a problem based on race, cemented in malice, discrimination, and hate. The CT-29 eagerly enlisted in the Union and fought for a future that some would not see, and they hoped would thrive on liberty. And they fought for a freedom that would one day be the famous topic of a great leader's dream. I am inspired by the CT-29's fortitude and selflessness and am honored to descend from their eminence. I am committed to maintaining the work that is still to be done and feel encouraged by events like this one. We are gathered to celebrate the CT-29's legacy of confronting racism, denouncing discrimination, encouraging inclusion, and fighting for equality. But may we also reflect on how we can continue their work for the good of all humanity. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. This is wonderful. The numbers. My name is John Mills. I'm the president of the Alex Breanne Corporation. We're a Connecticut-based nonprofit. We do research into the formerly enslaved. Then we trace them back to a current-day descendant. Then we give that person their history back. I trained in genealogy at Boston University, and it's become my prepare for retirement job. I'm actually a software engineer, but this work is meaningful. And this day is meaningful. I'm going to go into that a little deeper in a second, but I'm extremely honored to have here today with us Representative Joshua Hall. So I'm going to give him a moment to introduce himself and speak to you.
Good morning, everyone. As John said, I'm Joshua Hall. I represent the 7th District here in Hartford, Connecticut. Just by formal training, I am a history teacher. I'm assistant principal at Weaver High School right now, but I did go to school at Norfolk State University in Norfolk, Virginia, and one of the requirements was a History of Virginia course. And so I first heard about the 29th Regiment in that course in their taking of the capital at Richmond. So to be here today, some 35, 40 years later, is just awesome for me, and thank you to John for reaching out to the Hartford delegation. But we just wanted to be here today to just acknowledge this momentous occasion for all the descendants, Ms. Murrow, but just to talk about the bravery and the courage of those men, not only during the Civil War, but post-war and onward, because I think that goes to the testament of their true bravery and courage. So I do have a citation here for you guys. If you guys can just come up, please, that would be awesome. So the State of Connecticut General Assembly official citation introduced by myself, Representative Julio Concepcion, Representative Khan, Senator Fonfera, Speaker of the House Matt Ritter, Representative Gonzalez, Sanchez, Senator McCrory. Be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to the Connecticut's 29th Colored Regiment in recognition of their bravery in the Civil War, fighting many battles, including helping take Fort Harrison, located near the Confederate capital. They participated in scouting missions leading to the Battle of the Darbytown Road. 2 weeks later, pushing the Confederate Army back to the Battle of the Kell House. The men of the 29th took part in the last attacks to empty the Confederate defensive trenches. They were among the first Union soldiers to march triumphantly through the streets of Richmond. Upon returning to Hartford, they were met by Governor William Buckingham. Following the governor's speech, they participated in a parade through the streets of Hartford, which we enact today. So the entire membership extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope of continued success given this day, 22nd of November, 2025. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, Representative Hall. I appreciate you taking the time this morning to come out and present that. I'm going to try to get us going because I know it's not raining right now, so so it might be a good time in a second. But I'm going to give you a quick rundown. You know, we're doing this, and we're going to make it work Because it's the first time this has ever been done. We're just going to make it work today, right?
Oh, it's the second time.
Oh, it is. When was the first time?
160 years.
You understand? You understand? I can't even argue with that. I'm ready to argue too. I was like, who did this before? Okay, so we're going to follow in their footsteps. We're going to turn by turn go every street they walked. And we've got an audio tour that's, I'm going to try to play on a loudspeaker, but the people at the back probably aren't going to hear it. But don't worry about it. On the back of your lanyards is a QR code. If you scan the QR code with your phone, it'll take you to a landing page. There's all kinds of links, including a link to download the tour, a link to watch it on video, a link to read about it. There's all kinds of stuff. So please don't worry about it if you don't hear things while we're walking. That's all right. And also, while we're walking, every once in a while, I'm going to stop. That's because the tour is GPS enabled, and it expects me to stop. So just FYI, I'm just going to stop. We're going to stop for a second, let the tour finish that spot, and then we'll keep walking. So I think those are the major logistics. As you know, the men of the 29th and 30th stood right there on the south side of the building on November 24th, 1865, and they listened to Governor Buckingham speak. They had just left New York, and in New York, they learned that the state of Connecticut had just voted the month prior to leave the requirement of being white in our state constitution. Isaac J. Hill writes about it in his memoir. He says that the men of the 29th were not too happy with this state. And so that was meaningful that they came back here, and Governor Buckingham knew that, and so he addressed it with them. And you're going to hear about that in a second because we have his entire speech. And Governor Buckingham is going to come up here and recite that to you all. But before he does that, we're going to have Private William Webb, Kevin Johnson from the Connecticut State Library, introduce himself and provide a reenactment.
Said I'm free, praise the Lord, I'm free. I'm no longer bound, there's no more chains holding me, and my soul is resting, and it's such a blessing to praise the Lord, hallelujah, I'm free. Freedom, said it sounds good and it sounds nice. Got to be free. Greetings to all of you. My name is Private William Riley Salisbury Webb of the 29th Connecticut Volunteers, and I fought in the Civil War. Now that old song that you heard me come in on was what our fight was all about. An opportunity and a chance at freedom. When I think back until the time of enlistment, I can still hear Sergeant Alexander Newton say, I enlist under this conflict until the clanking of slave chains shall be heard no more. Listen, there's no more clanking, there's no more slave chains. Said I'm free, praise the Lord, I'm free. Freedom, said it sounds good and it sounds nice. Got to be free. Now, before I begin to tell you our story, I always like to stop and give thanks and honor to all of those who have fought and died for our freedom. I think back unto the year 1828. There was a young slave by the name of Nat Turner who had desired to be free. All Nat ever wanted was one day to be free. So he had this vision. And in this vision said if slavery was going to be abolished, somebody had to die. And blood had to be shed. So Nat Turner gathered 59 men and one woman, and they tried to overthrow slavery in the South. But he was captured and he was hanged. Then in 1859, a white gentleman from Torrington, Connecticut, Mr. John Brown, took up the same vision that Nat had. And John Brown tried to overthrow slavery, but he was also captured and he was hanged. Then in 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, and blacks everywhere were set free. And I say to you again, freedom. Said it sounds good and it sounds nice. Got to be free. Now, I was born in 1834. My mother's name was Eloisa Johnson, and my dad I did not know. But I always wondered who Dad was. Was Dad a tall man? Was he strong or friendly or kind? But I never had an opportunity to meet him. But in 1840, my mother, she met and she married Mr. Edwin Salisbury of Ellington, Connecticut. Now, Mr. Salisbury was a good man. He owned a nice piece of land, and he taught me all those things a young man needed to know. He taught me respect and honor, but most of all, how to work with my hands. See, he was everything to me. He was my friend. He was my big brother. Thanks, Dad. But in 1855, I disappointed Dad, and I committed a crime. And I was sent to the Weathersfield State Prison, where I spent 4 years of my life. That old song you just heard me singing on freedom, I just gave it all back. But during that time, it was rumored that war was getting ready to start in our country. The North versus the South. 1861, war started. The North versus the South. Now, blacks weren't allowed to fight, not until 1862, when Congress passed an act allowing for the enlistment of colored soldiers. Then in 1863, the War Department had established the Bureau of Colored Soldiers. Now there was nearly 200,000 black soldiers who fought during the Civil War. Comprised of 60 artillery, infantry, engineer, and cavalry units. There was at least 100 black officers, but you see, man, I wasn't an officer though. I was just a private, I was those little small guys, you see. But man, we served with this gentleman from Middletown, Sergeant Alfred Powers, who stood about 6'4", over 200 pounds. See, Sergeant Powers was a big man, and we would all gather in our encampment, and we would sing songs and play cards and drink our coffee and eat our hearts out. Then Sergeant Powers, he would quietly creep up on the scene, and all the soldiers started going, "Hey, Sergeant Powers! Hey, Sergeant Powers! Stand up!" See, seeing Sergeant Powers gave us that sense of hope, that if a black man could be an officer in the United States Army at that time, that anything was possible with freedom. Anything you wanted to be, you could be with freedom. But it also matters a great abolitionist, Frederick Douglass, said to our men before we marched into war. Frederick Douglass said, once let the black man get upon his person, the brass letters U.S., and an eagle on his button, and a musket on his shoulder, and bullets in his pocket, there is no power on earth that can deny that the black man has now earned the right to be a citizen in the United States. Freedom. Said it sounds good and it sounds nice. Got to be free. Now, after all that was going on, I think back to August of 1863. And it's real hot. And sir, I knew it was hot because the sweat was going into my eyes and into my face, and it was so hot. But I could hear the cries coming through the streets of Hartford, "Black man, free man of Hartford, enlist for the war." Nearly 1,500 soldiers enlisted. I was on December 22nd of 1863. But our regiment was not mustered into the army until March 8th of 1864. Now, as I recall our battle, we're down at the Laguna 100. There, we can't see the Confederate Army anywhere. But our first taste of battle came, and we were told to be quiet. And then the officer gave us the command, "Fire! No! Fire! No! Fire! No! Fire! No!" We fought well. And the officer wrote back said that those men of the 29th fought brave and gallantly. Black men who were thought of as nothing, fighting brave and gallantly. And I say to you once again, freedom. Said it sounds good and it sounds nice. Got to be free. Said I'm free.
officers and soldiers of the 29th and 31st Regiments. A little more than 4.5 years ago, the President called for troops to suppress a rebellion against a government which some believed was established for the exclusive benefit of white men. Those who entertained that opinion did not offer their services. Their names were not enrolled in the Union Army. But hundreds of thousands who believed in the principles of liberty as set forth in the Declaration of Independence voluntarily responded to the call. It was, however, soon found that the black man was interested in the result of the conflict between the government and its enemies, and he was invited to take part in the struggle. In obedience to that invitation, you tendered your services and were organized into these regiments and were sent into the field under officers who for ability and fidelity have been seldom equaled. I have watched your course with great interest. You went to Annapolis. The 29th went to Hilton Head. You guarded and preserved public order in Beaufort, South Carolina. You were ordered to Bermuda Hundred and entered the trenches before Petersburg, where more than 60 of your number were killed or wounded. You crossed the James and battled the enemies of your country and lost on the 27th of October, 1864, in killed and wounded 80 of your comrades. You have this honorable testimony from your general that you had done all that he could have asked. Your courage and valor were not abated, and you are credited with having been the first infantry that entered Richmond after Lee's army had been driven out. Nor have you, of the 31st, been less brave or faithful. The 30th of July, 1864, that terrible day on which you entered the exploded mines of Petersburg with 313 officers and men and came out of the dead struggle with only 163, will ever stand in history as testimony to your courage and fidelity. From Virginia, you were ordered to Texas, and having done your duty there, have now returned for your last muster. So far as I've been able to learn, in every position, you have rendered your valuable service to your country and won honor for yourselves and your race. For all of these services, I tender you, both officers and men, my grateful acknowledgments and the thanks of my fellow citizens. In their name, I greet you with a cordial welcome. I welcome you from sleepless watchings, from fatiguing marches, from the privations of the camp, and from the dangers of the battlefield, to the rest, the pleasures and the duties which pertain to peace, to home, and to civil life. The revolution in which we have been engaged, and in which you have taken an active and interesting part, has removed one of the greatest obstacles to the advancement of liberty, and enables me to welcome you to higher hopes of future good. And although Connecticut now denies you privileges which it grants to others for no other apparent reason than because God has made you to differ in complexion, yet justice will not always stand afar off. Be patient. Be true to yourselves. Remember that merit consists not in color or in birth, but in habits of industry, in intellectual ability, and moral character. Cultivate these characteristics of true worth. Show by your requirements and your devotion to duty in civil life that you are as true to virtue and the interests of government and country as you have been while in the Army. And soon the voice of a majority of liberty-loving freemen will be heard demanding for you every right and every privilege to which your intelligence and moral character shall entitle you. Again, I ask you to accept my thanks for your patriotic services and my best wishes for your prosperity and happiness.
All right, so we about to do this? I'm gonna go to the bathroom first, but then we're gonna do this. I mean, I got that prostate thing. I'm in that age group now. I'm gonna go to the bathroom first. But we're gonna meet out on the bricks on, what is that, the east side of the building. And I'm gonna have to set up the speaker and the wagon, so that might take me a couple minutes. But as soon as I get it set up, we're gonna start walking. All right, so get ready, meet up on the east side of the building. All right.
Well, thank you so much. I know, but you know what we've been.
Okay, we're gonna start walking. I'm gonna start the tour to that corner. Hopefully people can hear it. If they can't, that's all right. You'll get sound loaded later. The officers wanted to make sure that everyone knew that they're gonna block the intersections where we cross as best they can. But, you know, sometimes people don't pay attention. So, but just be aware. Make sure you're alert. Thank you. All right, let's go.
Let's go. Let's go.
All right, so we did it. We actually walked it. For the second time. I got it right this time. It's the second time. And hopefully it won't be the last time. Hopefully we'll do it again at some point, and maybe it'll get bigger. Maybe we'll just decide to foot the funds to close the street down one of these years, right? So I appreciate you guys actually doing that again. This is a heroic regiment, our 29th. These were heroic men. They did heroic things, and I think they need to be acknowledged. And we need to ensure that their story is told. It shouldn't be erased. We should understand what they went through and who they were. So I hope you had a chance to go into the back room and see some of the names. There are QR codes that start audio so you can learn more about those men. Also, the QR code on the back of your lanyards will take you to, again, resources that will teach you more not only about those men, but there are links there that will teach you more about the 29th Connecticut Colored Regiment Monument in New Haven. There's a short video link there that'll give you a tour of the parade grounds in Beaufort, South Carolina, where their famous photo was taken. So there's a lot there. Also, the National Park Service is working on a panel in Beaufort, South Carolina, that will have that photo on the panel there. By the way, there's a tree in that photo. That tree is still there. Check out the links that is on that QR code at the back of your lanyard. Now, we got a couple things that I want to do now to kind of close this out. I'm going to start with a young woman that I met a couple years ago through my daughter, incredible poet, and she's going to give us a poem. Her name is Grace Figueroa.
How's everybody doing? Great. Does your feet hurt? Yeah. Oh, I am very excited to be here today. I am super honored that John asked me to do this for him, especially for the 29th Regiment, and seeing that I am an Army veteran myself, and this just like hit really close to home.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor. So this poem is called The Left and Right to Return. Left, 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 right, left. March steady through the memory, let the sound of boots keep beating. They came home crowned in smoke-kissed glory. The 29th and 30th Black Regiments carved in story, steel-backed, spine straight. History in their chest, back in Hartford during the November frost mess. Old State House steps, Governor Buckingham waiting, saluting warriors who'd walked through hell's painting first in Richmond as ash rained like judgment. Capitol burning, confederacy crumbling, and they saw Lincoln. He strode through the ruin and rubble, tall shadow of freedom, coat brushing by all that trouble. Left, 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 right, left. They marched triumphant through the New Orleans streets, and in New York the cheers rose like drumline heat. But when Connecticut soil kissed their boots again, pride felt thin. Hope bent, spirit dim, because a month before they were homebound, the same people cheering voted black voices down, and they denied a ballot. They denied a say. After bleeding nation red for a union and daybreak. Left, 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 right, left. Tell me, how does a hero return to a home that ain't ready? How do freedom feel when truth cuts so heavy? How you lift your chin when the law say stand down? And they still stood unbroken and unbowed. They were steady hoping, and Buckingham spoke that day, fire firm in his tone. Brave men, your time will come. What you fought for will be known. Told them history don't forget those who plant tomorrow. That the soil of struggle births a vote from sorrow. Left, 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 right, left. And then the drums dramatically cracked the skies. Parade rolled so proud, Hartford streets flooded like thunder and loud. Names carved in wind, boots blessing pavements. Newspaper ink catching liberation's fragrance. Left, 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 right, left. They marched for the promise that still didn't pay yet. Eyes stared, proud fists in air, mouths roared with convicted lies as they glided on through with an iron soul stride. Lifting their uniform crowns where no hate could hide. They walked with dignity because the real honor was that they survived. You can't help but to salute the step, salute that sweat, salute the brothers that history ain't finished with yet. And so left, 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 right, left, we're still marching to claim what was earned in blood and respect. I'd imagine there was a command like, right, face, forward, faith. Left, 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 right, left. Because how funny is deja vu reminding us we are still on that track. Paul, thank you.
I got to apologize to y'all because I didn't tell y'all how good she was. I should have prepared y'all. I'm realizing I didn't let you know. Go ahead, Grace. I hope you don't mind if to close this out, I tell you a story.
Please.
Don't tell you a story?
No, please do.
Oh, okay. I was like, you know this one too? Somebody done already told this story? Good Lord. Okay. In the spring of 1862, the Union Army overtook the Confederates at the siege of Yorktown, Virginia. 130 miles away in Bristersburg, Virginia, an enslaved man named Richard Myers Hedgeman decided it was time to escape his enslaver. His enslaver's name was Jesse Peters. So Richard began a 20-mile trek towards the Potomac River, crossing the river into Indian Head, Maryland, a border state. From there, he headed for Yorktown, Virginia, now Union-controlled. In Yorktown, he boarded a Union hospital ship headed for New York with 20 other black men. He would live and work as a free man in New York, yet fearful that his enslaver might one day find him. On July 11, 1863, the New York City draft riots broke out, 6 days of white men killing black people in the streets, upset with Lincoln over the draft and Emancipation Proclamation, fearful that the formerly enslaved would take their jobs. I imagine Richard Myers Hedgeman and those 20 black men who boarded that ship with him must have been fearful for their lives. Their existence aligned directly to the anger of white men. Then must have made an impression, because 4 months later, 4 of them headed for New Haven, Connecticut, where they enlisted in the 29th Connecticut Colored Regiment. Their names were Wilson Essex, John Perry, Stephen Gray, and Richard Myers Hedgeman. By the way, none of their names are on the monument in New Haven. On enlistment, Richard dropped his last name and enlisted as Richard Myers. He said, "I left off the name Hedgeman for fear that my old master would know me and take me back into slavery. This would become an issue after the war, as it was difficult for him to gain his pension since his name was different." In support, Captain Charles Griswold of Company B provided a letter to support him. He said, "There is not any doubt as to his identity. Like many others in my regiment, he enlisted under an assumed name." A year ago, an amazing genealogist out of Washington, D.C. brought me this story. His name is Joseph Robbie. He's a current-day descendant of the enslaver of Richard Myers Hedgeman's wife, Tulip Coleman. I worked with Joseph a year ago to find their current-day descendants. We found them. We even set up a call with one of them, and Joseph shared with him details of his family that he did not know. We had an incredible conversation, and since then, Joseph has been on a mission to document the lives of this family that his family enslaved. He was supposed to be here today to walk with us, but he didn't make it. I haven't seen him, so I don't think he made it. But Joseph also shared with me a book from a church in Upperville, Virginia, that Richard Myers Hedgeman attended until his death in 1930. The book was produced in 2002. It was celebrating the 150th anniversary of that church. On the back page was an old picture of a man indicated as being one of the historic pillars of that church. Lo and behold, that was a picture of Richard Myers Hedgeman. I took that picture and I found an amazing artist from the greater Waterbury area to give us an updated portrayal of Richard Myers Hedgeman, to be part of a collection of paintings that I've been creating that we're calling the William Downey Memorial Collection in honor of my wife's uncle, who was a freedom fighter, died some 6 years ago. But all the portraits are of the formerly enslaved in grand style to represent them in the same way that you see portraits of that day of white Americans. So our collection is going to have a total of 6 photos. This is number 3. And so I want to bring up Katiana Jarbath Smith, the artist, to help me unveil it, and then she'll give some dialogue on her inspirations for the artistry. We're going to pull it off back.
Okay.
Ready?
Greetings, everyone. It's truly an honor to stand with you today in commemoration of the 160th anniversary of the return of the 29th and 30th. Being here and walking this path together reminds us that history is not distant. It's present, it's alive, and it is carried forward by moments like this one. Before I speak about the artwork, I wanted to offer a heartfelt thank you to John Mills and Erica Mills of Alex Breanne Corporation. Where are you, John? In the back, Erica. John and Erica are the reasons why this portrait exists. To commission this painting, they shared with me the only known photograph of Richard Myers Hedgeman, the one preserved in an old church book. From that single late life image, they entrusted me with the responsibility of bringing Hedgeman forward in a way that honors his truth and his legacy. When I began this portrait, I worked from that one church photograph. In the picture, Hedgeman is seated and his posture carries a quiet strength. So I kept that posture in the painting as a way of honoring the truth of how he held himself. But I made one intentional addition, which was John's suggestion. I placed the Bible between his torso and his right arm. It wasn't in the original photograph, but it was to carry the church element within him, to reflect the deep faith we know shaped his life. And instead of keeping him inside the literal church setting, I chose to transport him into a space that speaks to his story. The background is symbolic: the ship, the shoreline, the flag, each element holding a part of his journey. By bringing him into the foreground and allowing him to meet the viewer's gaze, I wanted him to command presence, to be encountered as a whole person rather than a distant historical figure. This portrait is my way of honoring his dignity, his humanity, and the faith and resilience that carried him through his life. Today is the first time anyone will see this painting, and it means so much that it was unveiled here, especially after the walk that we all had together. Hedgeman walked toward freedom, fought for it, lived decades after the war, and now through this portrait, he remains here, seen, remembered, and honored. Thank you, John and Erica, for your trust. Thank you very much, everyone.
So We only have one thing remaining. The framing is beautiful too as well. You just added that too. Goodness gracious, Tatiana. She's incredibly talented, as you can see, so I'm gonna give you guys some time as well to come up and check it out. When she showed me the footsteps leading to the Potomac, man, that's amazing. That is amazing. This was our clothing component, but we also realized we had I ordered too many of these. I always order too much, but we've got 2 extra hoodies. So that's why we put the raffle tickets in your badges. So we figured we'd just raffle off the 2 hoodies. Oh, you got 2 shirts as well? We're just gonna raffle off the 2 hoodies and the 2 shirts. I never run a raffle before, so I don't know what I'm doing now. So y'all have to help me. Jazz, that's my daughter, Jasmine. She gonna help me. I don't know how to do that part.
2 shirts first.
Are you guys doing that?
Yep, we got Sister Mike. Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. All right. Give it up for my dad. My dad is the bomb. And my mother. She just had to say something. Give it up for my mother.
The last 3 numbers.
Okay. What are we pulling first, Ma? The shirts?
The 2 shirts.
Okay,
yeah.
we're doing 2 shirts.
Yeah. Last 3 numbers.
All right. Last 3 numbers, 203. Oh, no, you good. We trust you. We trust around here. All right. Last 3 numbers, 144. Uh-oh, watch it. All right, now we're doing the sweatshirts?
Yes.
All right, last 3 numbers, 153.
Oh, that's me.
All right, this is the last one. All right, last 3 numbers, 193. 193.
You have to be present to win.
Going once?
Yeah, right here.
All right.
All right. Thanks again. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I think we honored the men today. Hopefully you guys can take what you learned today with regards to the walk or any information you learned in the back room with regard to each of those men or the documentary that was playing back there, and take that back to your hometowns or wherever you live and spread the word about these heroic men that we share a state with and their descendants. So I thank you. Thanks a lot.